Hi there, this video is prompted by a video by Ujima Flipper, which is a response to TJ, and it's about rape. Yeah, you're not really addressing me, you're talking to TJ, so it's probably a bit cheeky of me to jump in here, but anyway, it's just this stuff about biological bases for behaviour, which TJ is adding to the discussion. He says the context, but you're absolutely right, it's not exactly a context, it is part of the argument, and it supports a certain side of that argument, so it's not exactly context. But either way, it's a useful, potentially useful contribution. So I just wanted to see what if I can flesh that out a little bit from what little bit I know about the social history of rape, if you like, which is this stuff to do with the biological bases of behaviour and how they feed into things like morality. I mean, the first thing is to do with rape as an aspect of animal behaviour. You know, we are animals, other animals are animals. Does rape exist within the animal kingdom? Yes, it does. So it is natural in that sense. Doesn't necessarily mean it's good, but it is natural. Many animals do rape, and that is predominantly. Actually, I should qualify that. Many animals engage in sexual activity that looks as if one of those animals is not consensual. That's probably a more accurate way of looking at it. And it's predominantly male on female, or occasionally male on male. There are a few instances of female on male rape, routine female on male rape, but they're few and far between. And there's very particular circumstances and very particular animals that happens between. Most of the most of the explanations around why rape is the way it is, and indeed why male and female gender sexuality differences are the way they are, is to do with differences in the kind of reproductive capacities of males and females, and why they're different, not just in humans, but in other mammals and animals outside of mammals, really. Which is basically because females have to actually carry the children, and it's usually females that lactate, so are responsible for at least some of the raising of any young. During that period of time, they're effectively out of the reproductive game. They're not, they can't participate in the generation of new life if they're actually engaged in the raising of the existing one. And that changes it, because of course males in the animal kingdom aren't doing that. They're not raising. They're not lactating. They're not. They're not actually bearing the children themselves. So they're never out of the game. And that significant difference makes a difference in terms of the best strategy that each gender would approach to investing in its genetic future. I mean, put simply, what it means is that females should invest in quality, while males should invest in quantity. If a female can only bear one child at a time, then she'd better make absolutely sure that she's got the best genetic material inside her to qualify to ensure that the limited number of reproductive opportunities she has have got the highest quality in them. Males, it's not an issue. They're in theory could have sex as many times as they want, and in theory could have as many offspring as they wanted to. So the quality issue never comes up. You might as well, if you're a male, from a purely reproductive and genetic investment perspective, have as much sex as you possibly can. So those differences in reproductive capacity and reproductive strategies are said, at least in evolutionary biology, to underpin those differences. That women go for quality, men go for quantity, and there's a certain amount of evidence to support that, and certainly all of the kind of pop psychology of men and women and the pop sociology of male and female behaviour looks like that, if you want. And certainly the debate about rape is drawing on those kind of logics. Okay, the next thing about that is, what does that mean in terms of strategy, in terms of rape strategy? How does rape appear, given that difference? And there's at least two theories that come out of that. And here I'm drawing on this really great book called something like The Social History of Rape by Thornhill and Palmer. I might not have that title quite right, but I'll find the title out and I'll put it on this video. And they say there's two ideas. One of which is that, as many people have said, is that that rape is a product of natural selection. That because of this women go for quality thing, women are inevitably, naturally selected to be defensive about their reproductive capacities. You know, if you were a woman and you were a female and you were concerned to preserve the quality of your offspring, then you would be very defensive against the urgings of potential mates. Yeah. So the converse of that, and this is a kind of war metaphor, the converse of that from a male perspective is to develop strategies to overcome those defences. And one of those strategies for overcoming those defences, of course, is offence, and that's where rape comes in. And that's one analysis, and that's one of the most popular ones, that rape is a natural, evolved, selective behaviour. Again, doesn't make it right or doesn't make it moral. It just explains it. The other strategy, which is actually, I think, slightly more interesting, is where it's described as a byproduct or an exaptation, where you know, rather than trying to overcome those natural defences that the female would put up to protect her limited reproductive access, the male, it wouldn't even figure in that. Males, as I said before, would be going for quantity, so they would be opportunistic, have an opportunistic sexuality. They would be, you know, basically pretty much always up for it, and I think most men and many women would recognise that as a symptom of male sexuality. Pretty much always up for it. It's just an opportunistic thing, really. And within an opportunistic framework, if if the opportunity arises for to have sex with a female, then the male will take it, and that whole discussion about whether it's a violent act or whether it's an act of overcoming defences, any of those kind of things don't really play into it. It becomes just an extension of opportunistic behaviour. And it's important because in this model, where it's just an extension of opportunistic behaviour, anything that follows from that, such as violence or such as oppression, are additional, possibly cultural, but possibly not immediately sexual behaviours. So all this discussion about whether rape's an act of having power over someone, they kind of figure into that. So that you have this opportunistic sexuality, and power attaches itself to that occasionally, and turns what would be just a kind of act of promiscuity, where an advantage is taken, but there's no violence involved and there's no coercion involved. Power becomes attached to that, and it turns into this much darker activity. Okay, there was something I was going to talk about actually. Yeah, I mean, obviously none of these things validate rape. None of these things explain it. None of these things are excuses. You know, I would hope that excuse me, that would be perfectly obvious, and they certainly can't be used as basis for any kind of ethics or moral activity, which they sometimes are. You know, you have this what's sometimes called the naturalistic fallacy, where things that are natural are kind of assumed to be naturally good, and there's absolutely no guarantee of that. In fact, if anything, I would say morality itself is defined by being unnatural. And with Catherine Hepburn on that one, that nature is something we are here to rise above, at least in moral terms, and knowing when no should mean no. Yeah, I think that there was something else I was going to talk about, but I can't remember. So that'll do for now. Thanks very much.